Western Cape Premier Alan Winde, in his State of the Province address, announced that out of the 169,000 jobs that were created in the country in the fourth quarter of the 2022-2023 financial year, 167,000 of those jobs were created in the Western Cape. Now, delivering his SOPA at the Provincial Legislature last month, Premier Winde said that the way to build a nation is not to give out more grants, but to enable citizens to have the dignity and pride of having jobs. Premier Winde joins us now virtually to unpack and shed more light on some of the pronouncements that were made during his State of the Province address. Premier Winde, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Kathy. Thank you very much. And on this wonderful Human Rights Day.
So, Premier Winde, you said that SOPA provides you with an opportunity to reflect on the achievements that have been made. Last year, you said the Western Cape's Growth for Jobs plan actually aimed to grow the provincial economy by between 4 and 6% by 2035. Let's track that and also just touch on the point you made about the 167,000 of the 169,000 jobs being created in the Western Cape, and how that came about, and which sectors, of course, they are in.
So, of course, that was at a time of coming out of the pandemic. We're waiting for the current bumper season jobs that's linked mainly to agriculture and to tourism. And, of course, we've had a really amazing tourism season. We're way ahead of where we were in 2019. The tourism numbers of incoming tourists at our airport topped 1 million over the season. We weigh more than 200,000 more than we were in 2019, which was our best figure to before the pandemic. And I think this State of the Province address always reflects, because it's the last one of a term of office, it always reflects back on the last 5 years. So, I mean, you were talking now about one slice in time. That was a quarter report last year this time. But if you take all of the 5 years into account, and I'm really proud that 64.9% of all jobs in South Africa came from one province, and it's the Western Cape. I think, in your introduction, you were talking about how at the end of the day, we need to have grant systems, we need to have social nets, we need to protect the most vulnerable, but at the same time, we've got to do everything we can to empower an economy that enables job creation, because citizens must be able to get jobs so that they can actually look after themselves. I have a saying in our province. I say that nothing stops a bullet like a job, nothing puts food on your table like a job, and nothing gives you dignity like a job. And so really it is about enabling an economy, and I think that's everything that I do. So if we've got to focus on safety, why have I got to focus on safety? Well, of course, I want citizens to be safe, but high crime levels gets in the way of investment and gets in the way of businesses wanting to create jobs, or gets in the way of people wanting to be able to get to work, to be able to live lives that they value. We focus on education because we're preparing young people for the future of jobs and work. We focus on healthcare because you want to be healthy. Only healthy citizens can actually get a job and work. So I think everything that you do at the end of the day has got to be focused on how do we create an ecosystem and an environment that the economy can flourish, people can get opportunities, because through opportunities they get to live their lives. And obviously then at the same time, you've also got to create the social net. So then you've got to focus on gender-based violence, or you've got to focus on school feeding schemes. 500,000, 500,000 learners in our province get a meal, and many of them get 2 meals a day at our schools. We've now opened up 26 gender-based violence centres. So, you've got to make sure you're getting the balance of the two, but are we feeding in towards creating an economic opportunity and an economic environment? Are we enabling entrepreneurs to start jobs, to start businesses? And how do they, through some of the funds that we put in place, how do they grow their businesses? Because that's actually how you enable the economy. And sometimes I look at the numbers and I almost have to pinch myself. It's unbelievable. 64.9% of all jobs in South Africa in the last 5 years out of one province. But it's amazing, and you've got to thank the entrepreneurs, the people who take the chances, and the people who invest. That's how it happens.
And as you said there, Premier, that to quote you, nothing stops a bullet like a job. So those opportunities, but also speaking to safety and security, you said that the growing global shift away from respect for the rule of law and liberal democracy is something that concerns you. You also point out that one of the difficult challenges about the Western Cape is the levels of criminality in the province, especially syndicated criminal groups, whether it's gangsterism of extortionists, mafias demanding money from people's businesses. How are you dealing with this? And while you say that murder has declined in the past 5 years, you know, people's lived reality is, of course, something that you cannot underplay or undermine. So how are you dealing with these problems?
So absolutely. I mean, there's a number that haunts me. It's 4,000. That's how many people get murdered on average in our province. I mean, that's just unbelievable. You can't fathom that. 4,000 people. I mean, in our country, it's 27,000 people last year. Now, unfortunately, in a province, we don't really have the power. Provinces have oversight over the police. And I mean, that's something I've been fighting for years. I believe that provinces should have more power in decision-making. We can't even decide which police stations get more police officers. And if you look at the crime hotspots in our province, they have the least police officers to population ratio. And I don't understand that. I mean, that can be changed with the stroke of a pen in one day. It's not rocket science. But what we've done in the meantime is said, well, that's our mandate. Our mandate, according to the Constitution, is to say you have to have oversight. I mean, we've put a law in place called our Community Safety Policing Law in the province. We've created an ombudsman space so that you could have complaints about the policemen could be investigated. We do our policing needs and priorities report every single year, which says, how many vehicles are operating in each police station, what the paint quality is like on the walls, what the manpower is like, do they have trauma rooms? We really have a very extensive system of oversight, but that's not good enough. So when I came into office, I started what we call the safety plan. I put initially just over 1 billion rand aside from our budget, and we started what we call the LEAP officers. These are officers deployed to the crime hotspots, and these are the murder crime hotspots in our province. And these are not deployed based on police data. These are deployed based on our health data. So our health system, which we control, the province's main constitutional mandate is education and health. So that's where our budget goes, most of our budget, and that's what we control. So in the health system, we know if a knife stabbing victim is collected or a shooting victim is collected by an ambulance. We know what time they're collected, where they're collected, what was the cause of the trauma. We've got a specialist trauma measuring system called Hectus, and we've rolled it out to all of our hospitals and clinics. So we can measure that kind of traumatic crime, and that creates the hotspot. So then what we do is we deploy those officers based on that data. And then, of course, we have further data which links our telephone systems to body cameras, to drone systems. And so when you're using tech and data, you can deploy to those hotspots. Now, we've only got 1,300 LEAP officers in our province, SAPs or the police. We should have 28,000 according to our population. Unfortunately, we've only got 17,500 police officers. So we have far too few officers for the population. But because we are deploying these LEAP officers using the data in conjunction with police, so we work with the SAPS officers and those commanders in those policing precincts, but we're deploying them slightly different to SAPS, and we're now seeing plateauing and dropping of murder in those hotspots. And it's sufficient to create a real debate in South Africa to say, have a look at what you are doing, and you can already see it's influencing discussions that happen at our national Lekgotlas, and of course the Gauteng Premier also trying different things and bringing in different officer systems, because also exactly the same thing. I mean, we would be at a coordinating council, we'd be talking about crime, and we'd be all saying the same thing. And at least we've got to try things. I still do believe we need devolution of power, and that is something I will push for forever. I've looked at models all the way around the world, and when you bring the crime fighting closer to where crime happens, you understand it more, bring in the best technology that you can, and support those officers as best you can, build partnerships with your citizens in those crime areas, you will reduce crime. We base it on models that we've learned out of the model we call the Glasgow model, which we went to go and have a look at, which is pretty nifty. So we've built these models, and we're trying them, and they're working. So we're saying, well, let's use them in South Africa, but let's also devolve that power.
Premier Winde, and you mentioned the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, because in both provinces, crime is something that's very high on the list of grievances of the citizens in your community. So let me bring in some of the comments from X, because even here, that's what people are highlighting. So I want to just put these comments to you as we are speaking to all of the premiers. We asked the viewers to actually comment. So some of the comments on X. This one is from Dr. Ricardo Olivier, who says, same land, same province, but the coloured community in Cape Town still lives on the flats since apartheid. They raise their children in these flats. They die in these flats. When one whites owned kilometers of land, and when will the Western Cape government build the coloured people proper houses? And then there's another one from Michael Kave, who says, what are you saying about crime in the Western Cape? How to equip and, of course, drop down those crime stats, which you've touched on. But clearly this is a problem, Mr. Premier, and people feel as though they are living in two separate worlds in a city like Cape Town, where on the Cape Flats you feel like you're running a gauntlet every day, and in the more affluent suburbs it's a different world.
I think so. So let me first deal with the first question on, it's the same thing about crime, and those hotspots that we focus on, they are where crime happens, and the data tells us where that crime happens. And unfortunately, I think as a legacy of our history, a lot of the Cape Flats are where we find a lot of the gangsterism, and of course that's where all of this resource is being focused. And when it comes to human settlements or housing, of course we build thousands of opportunities every single year, and we also try different things and new things. And so, first of all, let me talk about what we call the Conradi site. This is a site where we've said, how do we change living patterns, and how do we speed it up, and how do we create almost live, work, play spaces? And this is sort of at the back of Pinelands, where we've put thousands of opportunities, schools, in what you would normally consider, or for example, in the Cape region, say, Century City. But this would be a similar kind of space, but it would start at very affordable housing or low LSM levels. So you really are creating opportunity. And so now how do we get that to spread all the way across the city? And of course, how do we get that to spread all the way across the province, because that creates opportunity. But also the same thing. I don't say that exactly the way that message was sketched is exactly true. When you go and speak to the BPO guys, I was in New York last year speaking to them about investment into the region. They were saying, we want to invest into Mitchell's Plain, we want to invest into Lwandle, because that's where we want to build. That's where we're seeing businesses investing. I think about our labs building their head office now in Mitchell's Plain. Businesses are investing in Mitchell's Plain, so it's not as if things aren't changing. They are changing, and middle class suburbs are growing in value. And so I don't actually agree fully with what that message was saying. Come along and visit some of the businesses in Khayelitsha, and come and see the 5-star hotel now that's open in Khayelitsha. Come to some of those businesses that just amazing to see them growing, and the entrepreneurs that are helping these businesses like Levuyurani from Cellular Computers were recognized by the World Economic Forum, and the kind of development that's happening.
How is the business doing at that five-star hotel in Khayelitsha, Mr. Premier? Because not so long ago we heard companies like Google through their websites that direct traffic no longer wanting to divert people through the townships because of the danger that is inherent in passing through there. So how is that business flourishing?
So in Khayelitsha, I mean, jeepers, I think when you go to Rands in Khayelitsha, I think probably as far as entertainment businesses go, I'm pretty certain that it makes more money per square meter than probably the top performing entertainment business in the waterfront. It's an unbelievable business. When you go to Siki's Coffee and you see how that business is changing out of Khayelitsha, and yeah, maybe Google did change, but not necessarily into Khayelitsha. It was right next to the airport where we'd had a couple of hijackings. And of course, citizens must know as well that, they've also got a responsibility. If we want businesses to grow, we've got to make sure that we are creating an ecosystem and an environment, and we must support and look after those regions so that the businesses can grow. I was at Culture Cycles the other day in Khayelitsha, and while I'm there, the German visitors arrive, rent their bicycles. So yeah, there are incidences of crime, and we've got. I mean, that's probably one of the big focuses of my term is safety, because if we create a safer environment, what I said right in the beginning, you create an ecosystem that attracts investment and grows businesses. So we've got to be getting the crime rate right. We've got to stop the extortion. We've got to stop the gangsterism, and then what happens is the economy grows even more.
So as we wait for that to happen, Premier Winde, of course, we have to leave it there. But do tell you, I have seen, some of the shows, election shows, will be coming to Cape Town. So there will be more opportunity to question, I suppose, in more depth and detail, some of these plans and, of course, what was discussed in the SOPA. But thanks for your time, Western Cape Premier Alan Winde, unpacking some of the announcements made during the State of the Province address.